So friends, you have heard Sujoy and Rahul, and I think, there are some fantastic takeaways. What I'm going to do next couple of minutes, for a change, I thought I'll use a few slides. They are primarily few stories, but they're all real stories. And what I'm going to do is to share with you that our infrastructure sector can be transformed. It can be converted into one of the best infrastructures of the world in terms of the way we solve challenges, the way we address challenges, and the way we create opportunities for startups. Now, friends, if you just look at one very important aspect, this whole topic of smart city, now there's a lot of discussion going on. We have now more than 100 cities which are in the program of smart city initiatives. And I'd like to tell you the story of just last 40 days, right? Me and Raj and some of my colleagues, we had meeting with Madam Nirmala Sitharaman, who has been just elevated as a defense minister. We were meeting just in this very hall on 29th of August with Dr. V.K. Saraswat, who used to be earlier the scientific advisor to Defense Minister, now a part of Niti Aayog. And then on 5th of September, in our Mohali campus, we almost had 500 people. They were primarily industrialists and owners of companies interacting with potential employees. And one common theme was that how do we boost and how do we accelerate the entire process of our startup movement? That was one. How do we really address the challenges we have in the infrastructure sector? And the third was this whole fear of employability because of the robots taking over human beings and Industry 4.0 becoming a big stuff. So these were actually the common theme. And I would like to share with you, as far as India is concerned, we are actually at the early stage of urbanization because only around 31% of the people stay in cities. And when you compare it with Africa, which is around 40%, and when you compare it with global average, we are actually far below. I think urbanization is a big reality, and I see a lot of opportunities for startups. Now, I just thought we'll have two slides, which is on reality check. Now, I'm sure many of us remember about the flood that we had in Mumbai, where you had human chain. I remember it also because of one of my employees who was actually in the office. We instructed her to leave the office when it was raining and there was signal that there will be flood. She didn't leave the office because she was trying to complete one of her tenders, which was for bidding in an infrastructure project. And finally, we called her up and told her that if you don't leave the office, you will lose your job. And she left. She didn't know swimming, and the water level was below the chest. And then you remember about the earthquake we had in Gujarat. I'm sure you remember about the flood we had in China. I'm sure we all of us know the number of people who actually die because of mosquitoes in our country, and we know about kind of pollutions that we have in many cities of our country, and just very recently, very recently, we had the flood, which was on 14th of July 2017. Many of us have forgotten it. Newspapers don't talk about it. You had more than 85 people who died, and 4 lakh citizens were actually impacted because of the flood. Now, I'd like to sum up by saying that our infrastructure is a challenge, but it's also a very big opportunity. I'd like to share with you one project, right? Now, if you look at the city of Singapore, they got a project called Virtual Singapore. And the Prime Minister of Singapore has set a vision that they would like to create Singapore as a vibrant international science and technology hub. And I would just use one slide to tell us what they're planning to do. They have 4 perspectives. First of all, they want to ensure that the quality of governance improves. So governance is one of the perspectives. The second perspective is obviously the citizens' comfort. The third is they want to really create Singapore a center where startups and businesses would come and set up their operations. And they also realize that academic institutions and research institutions are going to play a very, very important role. And they got to learn about science, they got to learn about modeling, and they got to learn about how can you leverage science and management practices to make the world a better place to live in. Now, if you look at the smart city projects and pick up any area, for a moment, if you treat a city as a mother of many, many subsystems, I think water is a huge potential area, right? Energy, right? If you look at the apps that you can develop for improving citizen services, for improving healthcare, for understanding how can you make mobility more effective, the kind of citizen services that you can offer. I think in all these areas, I believe there are great opportunities. At ISB, we have developed a 12-dimension intervention strategy to make cities a better place to live in. We built a model which can contribute to all those cities which are trying to be smarter, but also cities which are trying to build satellite city, and at the same time, the cities which are absolutely new cities. And you know, we just submitted a proposal for the city of Chandigarh, and I think, you know, there's a lot that we can do together. I wanted to share with you just one more example. I think our infrastructure project, the quality of infrastructure that we built got to not only improve, but got to significantly improve. That's number one. Number two is extremely critical that our projects don't suffer from time and cost overrun. And we got to really deliver our project much faster than what we have been doing, right? And irrespective of the claims of different organizations, government institutions, I must tell that our projects can be delivered much faster than how they are delivered today. And I would like to share with you one actual case related to that. Now, before I do that, just one statistics. There is a study done by KPMG, and KPMG has shown that the time overrun cost, just for a few set of public sector projects, where 110 projects were delayed, in terms of money, it was $26 billion. So we as a nation actually lost $26 billion just because of delay of projects. Now, the example I wanted to give you is, and this is my last example. So this was an organization in Russia, and I led a delegation which visited this company called NIIF. Now, this organization has built processes, and they have leveraged technology wherein they have brought down the duration of project from almost 60 months to 48 months, right? 60 months to 48 months. Imagine if your project cost is $5 billion and you complete the project in 48 months as against 60 months, entire project profitability, you know, can go through transformation, and project could actually make much more money than what it would otherwise. Now, this company, you know, when we visited, you know, it was almost like magic, right? It was almost like magic. We went there, this company actually engineers the complete infrastructure project. They virtually roll it out. So they virtually construct the project, and they study what kind of problems are you encountering while you are implementing the project. They fix those problems in the virtual world, in the digital world. And if you say that you don't want to see a project in the computer, you want to see it in front of you, they use virtual reality and augmented reality, and you can actually see that huge power station maybe in front of you. And they have gone around the world. The CEO is telling that they have gone and spoken that we shall deliver the project much faster than what you do, and we shall deliver a quality which is better, right? And do you think we can do business? They backed around 20 projects from different parts of the world, on an average valued at more than $5 billion. So you're talking about order book of around $100 billion. So I think, you know, in the infrastructure sector, we need to really leverage technologies to improve the quality of projects and also to ensure that, we complete our project much faster than what we do. So now we'll open this session for question and answer.
Good morning, everybody. Just I want to have couple of questions to you, sir. Everybody talking about infrastructure. So most of the startups are also concentrated on IT technology and its ITS services. There are a lot of things to be done in the infrastructure front, like now government is already spending more than 70-80 billion on electronics imports, and almost 95% of electronic ancillaries or its parts are being imported. And why don't our startups may concentrate on creating a number of electronic small devices, lot of things where our startups are not concentrating. We have seen in China where our engineering graduates or school dropouts, they are trying lots of new instruments that are being produced and being exported to other parts of the world. So I request our startups not only just concentrate on IT and ITS services, please do, because our government of Telangana is coming up with a electronic ECS facility in about 600 acres. They are creating an infrastructure like TiE. People can also experiment there and try to do something which is also very important for the country. And the second thing is infrastructure regarding digital India. Now, a lot of infrastructure need to be done because about 100 million people are using telephones today, and they're all using Wi-Fi, internet, and all other things. So the priority must be given by the infrastructure funds and all that, not only just for railways and roads and airports and ports. We also give more prioritize for digital infrastructure, which 100 billion people are using, and that will help us in improving our income from the other parts of the world. I request the next few speakers little more concentrate on these couple of subjects, which will help for the new startups. Thank you, sir.
Any question you have? Anybody would have a question? Yeah.
Sir, would you just throw some light on what kind of apps we can actually build to help infrastructure areas, especially around smart cities? Can you elaborate on any of that? This is for Dr. Chandan.
Yeah. So, but I couldn't understand the question actually. What you said?
What I'm saying is that
apps.
Apps.
What kind of apps?
Yeah, mobile
okay.
apps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, if you really look at India, right, and if you look at the percentage of people now, who are above 50, we talk about demographic dividend, but if you look at percentage of people who are above 50, now that's a very, very sizable number. I think one is that I think there are a lot of citizen services that you can build for people who are very elderly and people who are just above 50 in different areas, right? Right from supporting them for portfolio management and many other areas, right? But in general, when you talk about citizen, I think you can build apps which are for healthcare. You can build apps which are related to security. So I think healthcare, security, even education, then portfolio management. I would say that these four are very interesting areas. But also there could be many more, right? Would you like to say something?
Maybe I'll give you some examples of what's happening. And I think what you heard from Rahul was very interesting. He basically said, it's not about science, it's not about just technology, it's about entrepreneurship and starting up companies, about finding a problem to solve and systematically finding those solutions to those problems. Right? At least that's the way I see it, right? Now think of infrastructure and think of the constraints we face for infrastructure in India. If you're building a road, you need to find, and if you're building a toll road, you want to build a good toll road. What happens is that where you put toll booths, you need a lot of land. In India, land is a constraint. So imagine technologies that allow us to toll in a very smart way where we use less land. That's a problem and a potential solution. And there is someone who has come up with this, which is called FASTag, where if your car is driving through those toll booths even at 100 kilometers an hour, they will pick up your car and they will be able to figure out your toll. Let's look at the port sector. The biggest problem with the port sector in India is not the non-availability of port infrastructure. It is actually exit out of the ports, again, because of the land constraint. So someone came up with a solution, and it's also a lot of the time was being spent for containers, which contain products that you and I buy on a daily basis. Our iPhones, our Samsung mobile phones, etc., that are stuck in those containers. And basically, the idea that it takes a long time to clear customs, and all kinds of other formalities when those containers come to the ports. Introduction of RFID type technology into those containers, into those products, changes the whole way that products can be handled. One could go. The Professor Chowdhury mentioned this. One of the biggest challenges that the entire South Asia is going to face in the coming decades is water. Water is going to be a huge issue that the world is going to have to deal with it, but South Asia, because of its population, more than anyone else. It's a problem area, and the solutions are not yet very clear. It's extremely expensive to desalinate water. So can we come up with technologies that actually have an impact on this? You're talking about apps. The power minister has developed an app which tells him which power plant in the whole country is able to produce and supply power at the cheapest variable cost. He has it on an app. And that allows him to figure out which is the more efficient plant from which a distribution company should buy power. Once you start, point I'm trying to make is that in the next 5 years, talk about $1 trillion, here's $1 trillion is going to be spent in India on infrastructure. If that cannot generate opportunities for technology, for apps, for all kinds of startups, I don't know what can. So understanding that sector better, understanding where the problems are, and focusing on potential solutions to the problems will keep you guys busy for a long time. I can tell you this.
You had a question.
My question is to Rahul. Your spirit and confidence are commendable. I hope it will have a ripple effect covering all the entrepreneurs in the country. What are you planning beyond landing a rover? Okay, that's one. Second is, who is supporting this? Where are you getting funding?
I thought it was one question. I thought that I heard 3 questions over there. So thank you so much. It looks very easy. It looks very, it looks very easy. It looks like, we had figured this out back then. We did not. So we obviously started somewhere else. We tried some things. It failed, then tried something else. So now it's easy, it's much easier to tell the story. It's a very expensive program. It's going to cost us close to $70 million to do this. We are at about 2/3 of the fundraising. There's another 1/3 we need to raise to be able to finish this. So that's on the number side. Some of our biggest backers and our thought leaders of India. So Mr. Ratan Tata himself, Nandan Nilekani is a huge backer, Kiran Majumdar-Shaw, very recently Roshni Nadar has signed up. So a whole lot of people who have been supporting this for what it means as opposed to what the return on investors is going to be. So therefore space, by that manner of speaking, qualifies under infrastructure. Moving on to your next question. I think what we have here is a very special set of people, set of skills, capability that we've developed and the capacity that we're building right now. It's unique, not only just to India, but very few and far apart internationally. So if I had to pick another company which you could relate to, it would be a SpaceX or a Blue Origin or a Lockheed Martin or a Orbital ATK. So all these skills are dozens subsystems and the ability to start from first principle and build a complete spacecraft. I think you'd find this only in such large organizations. And obviously space agencies, so I'm not counting a NASA, JAXA, ISRO there. Because this is a very special skill, very few people will be able to leverage the skill. Having said that, we see the mission to the moon as a starting point. It will be 7 years since we actually started the journey, but if we see that as the starting point, we see ourselves becoming a full-fledged, specialized precision engineering company going into the future.
Hello. My question is to Dr. Chandan. Yeah. It's related to drug discovery and development. So have you come across with any technologies where you can reduce the time to develop the compound of 10 to 15 years? If it is so, please could you enlighten us?
So is the question, is there a technology which helps you to reduce the cycle time of designing and manufacturing component? Is that the question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So in fact today there are technologies available with multiple companies, okay? Even the company that I worked till recently as managing director and vice president called Dassault Systems, but you have many of them, right? So you can practically design, right? If you have this bottle, you can design this bottle in a platform in 3 dimensions. If you want to manufacture it yourself and you have a factory, you can create a replica of the factory. And if you don't have a factory, but you want to build a factory, you can build a factory. So you have designed this, now you have a factory. And in the factory, you can actually digitally manufacture this product. So what would come out from a digital factory is a digital product. And then you can do all kind of tests. You can figure out what happens when you drop it. What happens, when you try to open it. How much force do you need to open it? You can figure out if it's a shampoo bottle, how much shampoo falls when you try to pour it. Is it a big lump or a small quantity? What happens to the last drop? So you can do all this actually virtually through digital technology and simulation. And in the end, if you say you want to see it, you can see it in front of you, and the whole stuff is digital. So your question was, is you can not only reduce the cycle time, you can significantly reduce the cycle time. That's number one. Number two, you can get it right the first time when you physically do it, which reduces your cost also, improves quality, right? Any other question?
From me. Yeah. So my question is to Mr. Bose and Dr. Chowdhury. We all talk about infrastructures and smart cities, but the major issues which kind of surface are waste management, water management, and power management. What are the precautions that are going to be taken to address these particular needs? So you could hear what I said.
So if I heard you right, your questions were waste management, water management, and power management are 3 key issues facing cities. So what can be done?
Yes, absolutely.
To improve those areas? Power, I think, is a sector where India is making strides. I think on the renewable energy side, India is going to become probably the leading player in the world very, very soon. It's already one of the big success stories of what we have been able to do. So I think on the power side, we are well on the way. And the concept of public-private, which in my mind is a critical factor to solve infrastructure problems, is well set in the power sector. There are issues, related to, the performance of distribution companies, the utilities, the ones that actually finally deliver the power to your door. But I think there is awareness of what can be done to fix those. So those are on the way. And I think the solution to the power sector lies actually in solving the puzzle with the distribution companies. Because if the distribution companies are efficient and creditworthy and performing well, the rest of the chain will more or less take care of itself. Capital will flow in, entrepreneurs will invest money, and things will happen. Waste management in cities has been more tricky. And the reason it has been tricky is because at the end of the day, the question comes up, and again, management of these services are better done in private hands. I mean, that's clear. But for the private sector to invest money into these sectors, there needs to be a return on capital. And in waste, there's been this issue about, do we as citizens, will we at the end of the day want to pay, either through taxes or through tolls, to actually have that waste managed? And as of now, I don't think we are at the point of time where the business model for waste management is clear. Where it's headed is this concept of waste to energy, at least for the organic waste part of it, model where organic waste can actually be converted into energy. But the processes, and again, you guys are looking for technology ideas, the processes currently are not that efficient. So you need a lot of organic waste to produce any kind of energy that is viable for sale. So more advanced technologies on these in that area would be very useful. Waste management has been a challenge. There have been private entrepreneurs who have tried to get into waste management, but the sector has not really got to where it needs to get to scale. And again, in infrastructure, what you need is you need scale for things to happen. Water is, I think, at a very, very early stage. And in water, you have two aspects. You have water distribution, where the water that's coming into the houses through the taps and so on and so forth, and you have wastewater management. And in both these areas, I think we have a long way to go. So there is I'm sure many of you have followed the Save the Ganga project that the government is trying to implement. And the idea over there is at least to handle wastewater management that ultimately gets into the rivers. And there, it's a fairly, I wouldn't say it's a very high technology kind of a solution. It's frankly more of an implementation of technology that exists kind of a solution, and operating that technology effectively. On the water distribution side, I think we have, in my view, it's probably one of the areas that we as a country need to think through very deeply over the next decades. Because I think, given what's happening with and I think the way the government is doing it is good, which is that, one, they're trying to clean the sources of water, which is of course very important. But second, we also have to start focusing on what do we do. And it's very interesting. We had, in IFC, we had invested in a company, the largest water distribution company in Brazil. And the amazing thing is that that company did not sell itself as a water company. It sold itself as a healthcare company, because the quality of water that we actually use and consume has a very high correlation with health. And there is a systemic sort of cost that is very high when water distribution is not, when you don't get enough clean water to your population. So on water, I feel that we as a country are probably at at an even earlier stage in terms of thinking through how we will get this more efficient and to a quality that, that we want to. I think it will have to do with technology. I think it will have to do with, at some point, some kind of a price being set for this water. Because again, in my view, a price is always good because it actually determines consumption. So, it reduces wastage. If you don't have a price, you're wasting water. A lot of the water is going into agriculture today. And there, again, I think there are policy issues that will need to be addressed. Because again, when you have free power, you waste water. If you don't have free power, you become much more careful about how you use water. So lots of issues, many of which are policy related. I mean, it's a very, very important question that you have asked. Policy related, technology related, behavior related. that will have to, basically, we will have to change ourselves and evolve over time.
So just one example I want to give, which is related to waste, okay? You have that institute called ICT, Institute of Chemical Technology in Mumbai. They have built a technology wherein they take agricultural waste and converts it into fuel. And there's a plant in Kashipur, which is a pilot plant. And I have been told that, fund is not a problem. There are a lot of people wanting to invest as long as they can produce scale. Because scale is something which is very, very important. And if any of you are interested in getting into business in the water sector, do let me know. I can give you some tips later on. Any other question? We only have now, I think we have probably, time is up. So, that question that you had, we'll take it up during break. Thank you.